So, I mean,
Yeah.
he was a no-star recruit. I watched him at Washington State because I'm from Washington State, but not a lot of people did. He goes to Miami, he pops. Does he look like a bona fide franchise changer on tape?
I think he does, Colin. It's funny. I finished watching him. I finish all the quarterbacks before the combine because I always get asked about them at the combine. So I finished all those quarterbacks, and my opinion doesn't change because it's based on tape. And I saw Ward as a true, legit, high-end prospect who's worthy of a top pick in a draft. He's clearly the most physically gifted quarterback in this draft class. I just think that the traits, the high traits level, and I know some people at Washington State who told me that he's a great kid, that he's got a dog mentality. So I don't think there's any concern there at all with Cam Ward. I spoke to an NFL coach, and I felt the same way, who said that if he was in last year's draft, he would have been in the conversation with the top three. And I personally believe that based on tape study.
Okay, so I've said I think Tennessee's going to be a playoff team with him. That's one of my upset picks. I think he's a starter. Now, I like Shedeur more than...
Yeah, I don't want to talk about Shedeur. We talk about him enough. I want to talk about Cam Ward. Yeah, Cam Ward, there was a lot. I'm glad Greg Cosell said this because a lot of people were kind of saying, oh, if Cam Ward was in, the draft last year, he would, not be a top draft pick. And, here we are saying, Greg Cosell is kind of be like, no, he'd be, a top three prospect, which is interesting because are we including Caleb Williams still in that top three in that regard? So, like who would kind of get the boot? Would it be, we know Jaden Daniels is there, we know Bo Nix is there, so it's like, are you replacing Caleb with Cam Ward? But Cam Ward definitely obviously has such awesome physical traits, but I just also love with, he's always keeping his eyes down the field, even when he is kind of scrambling around and being mobile. And when he is moving, because listen, when we're talking about accuracy and arm strength and stuff like that, for me, so much of that can kind of, I don't want to say be generic, but kind of a little straightforward, and also kind of just like, let's just like get him into the NFL in that regard. So I always try to look for a little bit different things. I always try to look for something that's beyond just kind of like, oh, again, how accurate is he? How often is he throwing the deep ball? Did he throw a lot of screen passes and this and that? And when I look at him when he's under pressure, he just appears to be so comfortable and so confident and grounded, and in a way that's not just because he's better than the people around him, because it's a lot easier, right? I'm going to be real confident and comfortable if I'm like, playing with a bunch of 10-year-olds, because I'm like, you guys can't hurt me. But the way it looks like to me is more that the game is just really slow for him, which again, in a positive way, the game just feels so much more slow. Because sometimes you have guys that are really sped up and do well, and that's speaking of Shedeur Sanders. Like I get that feeling so much more from Shedeur, and there's definitely things that like a Shedeur Sanders still gets away with because it is college and he is an elite athlete, and so you're gonna have success. But for me, it feels like things are so much slower for Cam Ward, and I'm really excited to see how that translates into the NFL. I really am, because things felt really sped up, for instance, for Caleb Williams at times in college, but certainly in the NFL. Things were very slow for Jaden Daniels, and even Bo Nix, who I'm super, super high on. I was thinking about this a few days ago. Like, that's actually one of the things that I'm really going to look for in the second season for him, is like, do things slow down for him? Because he definitely kind of always looked like he was ready to like jump out of his shoes, right? Like, even when he was being patient and being patient in the pocket and, keeping his eyes down the field, all that good stuff, there was still a sense of like, I'm ready to jump out of my skin. And I just see such, just such a groundedness to Cam Ward's game that like, that type is always going to resonate with me. When, the less sped up you are, the better, quite frankly. And, listen, sometimes it's not all or nothing either. Josh Allen can kind of have a little bit of that to him. Patrick Mahomes, Lamar, like you can see that with all great quarterbacks. But I think when there's a calmness to your game, there's the potential for it to be such a smoother transition to the NFL. And it's just yeah, Cam Ward is definitely someone that I'm really excited to see his transition to the NFL and then compare it to some of these other more recent quarterbacks of the past. Of course, most recently, Caleb Williams. I'm just really, really excited to kind of really compare and contrast and just, again, look beyond some of the things of like, he's throwing the ball accurately. He's, seeing the field well, dealing with the pressure. Like, again, I try to look beyond some of that stuff because that stuff is, again, some of the other superficial stuff, like it's not necessarily superficial because it's obviously important, but it's just like it's kind of obvious. It's obvious when you see Caleb Williams throw the ball 5 feet too high over his wide receiver. It's like, right, I see that, I know that, I can see that he has to get more accurate, he has to be more composed. But like I'm trying to look beyond just that, beyond just the surface level of what the film can say. I'll leave I'll leave the film study to the Greg Cosell's of the world. So yeah, the real question is do the Titans have the infrastructure to support a rookie quarterback to have the levels of success? To have the levels of success as quickly as someone like Colin is predicting. And fortunately for them, they're not in this brutally tough division, although I think this division could sneaky get competitive because I do think the Texans will still be formidable, and I think that there's a real chance of the Jacksonville Jaguars, as long as Trevor Lawrence is actually healthy, they'll get some momentum going. But it's not like where I'm just like, oh yeah, dude, like you're gonna get there's gonna be some games that they're just gonna be able to just pounce on Cam Ward, rookie quarterback. What are you gonna do? It's just gonna happen, and you don't necessarily see that from the jump. So there's definitely a potential for a smoother transition, and someone like Cam Ward, who obviously wants to get after it, wants to be great, wants to be special. You can always identify that. That's always an easy person to root for. So but yeah, there's still a little quirky things with Cam Ward that I've already talked about in the past, and I'm just kind of waiting to see how smooth they get there. But yeah, some of these quarterbacks I'm so fascinated to see. Some quarterbacks I can from the draft into the NFL, like I have such confidence of kind of how things will unfold. I don't have such a strong level of confidence with Cam Ward, but I still have a tremendous amount of excitement with Cam Ward and what the potential he has with Tennessee. Because again, I actually see Cam Ward as very binary in that regard. I think he's either going to be great or just another one of those picks. Like I don't see that, like for instance with a Caleb Williams or a Bo Nix. I'm just using the most recent draft picks. Like I see those quarterbacks as either being, pretty great, pretty good, pretty decent. And that's kind of it. I don't see them just being like, even though people want to try to flag Caleb Williams as say like a bust or something like that, like I don't see it that way. I see at the very minimum, like he's going to be like a pretty successful quarterback. Does he live up to his elite great potential? Maybe not, who knows? But like I don't see him like out of the league in 3 or 4 years or being a backup quarterback. That I do not see. For me right now, Cam Ward gives me this very much like, no, he's either going to be a special quarterback, truly special, or he's going to have too many moments when you're just like, we're a little all over the place here. We gotta kind of get settled down, and you can't just quite get it there, right? And again, I'm not predicting either direction of that. I just don't see a middle path for Cam Ward. And again, that doesn't mean that I'm right. It's just kind of what my takeaway is right now, and especially because you're going to a place like Tennessee and not like a place that really has like a Sean McVay in place, Kevin O'Connell, Andy Reid, Shanahan. I just think that kind of sets you up more for kind of like a little bit more consistent trajectory. Not to say that the Tennessee Titans haven't made moves, but still obviously significantly less established than some of those other teams or coaching staffs. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Cam Ward being a top quarterback prospect and very high level according to Greg Cosell and Colin Cowherd? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so they agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.